An author who lived and died before Jesus was alive wrote about writing his book. The reason he wrote his book, called On Agriculture, he said he could not allow the Sibyl, or that is the false priest, to have uttered prophecies which benefited mankind not only while she lived, but even after she passed away. And that to people to whom she never knew, and not do something even while I am alive. The author read false prophecies. Prophecies which benefited mankind, not only then, but also people who lived after then. Not only those people that the false prophet knew, but people the false prophet would never know. The author read those and said, I can't do nothing having read those. I've got to do my part. I cannot not do something even while I'm alive to help my friends and kinfolk. If, that's a big if, it's true that false prophecies from a false prophet should motivate somebody to do something, how much more true is it that true prophecies from a true prophet, in fact our true Savior, should motivate us to do something? I have witnessed a group of doers this weekend. I am thankful for this group of doers. I'm thankful when I'm not here. I am thankful that you have allowed Marcy and me and our family to work together with you for just these few days. I pray that the work we've done has been good and that you are more equipped to do more as you go out into the world. Our last sermon will be from Hebrews chapter 12. I noticed Brian kept his thoughts short and Jeremy led only one verse of the song, which is great because that allows me to go along with Hebrews chapter 12. Hebrews 12, verse 1. Therefore, since we have so great a cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let us also lay aside every encumbrance and the sin which so easily entangles us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. If this exposition were to follow the grammar, it would sound like this. The what is let us run. That's the main thought of this. Let's run. That's the leading verb. The why is since we have so great a cloud of witnesses. The how is laying aside every encumbrance and the sin that so easily entangles us, running with endurance, and fixing our eyes on Jesus. If I were to make the exposition and the outline follow the grammar, that's how it would be laid out. I'm not going to. We'll cover all of those. What I want to focus on are the witnesses and the witness. That is what they are trying to tell us. Verse 1, therefore, since we have so great a cloud of witnesses, the first point is who these witnesses are. Now, to read that, this is for free today, right now, what I'm about to say. You'd have to read chapter 11, which comes before chapter 12. We're in chapter 12. And that little therefore, goes back to chapter 11. We're not going to read chapter 11. You all know the text. But in chapter 11, it begins, there are proper names, some 16 of them, starting with Abel and ending with Samuel. We'll read names. These are names that you know. You just say one of them and it brings back a flood of lifetimes. There is they and others. The they in the text refers to all of Israel when they went over, they crossed the Jordan. So we're talking millions of people there. And the others also refer to them, and also when they conquered Jericho. There are prophets and women. And so what we're getting at here is a lot of people, actually. It's 16 names, but there's a lot more behind that. There's a lot going on. And then in chapter 11, verse 39, it'll say, all these having gained approval through their faith. Now that is actually what we're getting at. A whole bunch of people who died in faith before Jesus was resurrected. Who are these people, these witnesses? These witnesses are those who have died in faith. Now, understand that this is the most important group of people. These are the best souls. This is the best group. This is the elite for all time. You're looking at it right here. Those who have died in faith. If you want to be anything, it's in this group. The wealthy. You turn on the radio and they'll talk about the wealthy. Oh, it would be nice to be in the 1%, wouldn't it? The powerful. We have our Trudeaus and our Trumps and our Bushes, and I don't know who came before Trudeau, but you got them all. We've got them all. They're all over the world. They're the powerful. That's the group you want to be in, not when you're looking at God or from God's perspective. The popular and the famous, the athletic right now, it's, what is it? It's baseball season is over. What a great sport that is. Look at all the talent they have. Wouldn't it be great to be a football player or a hockey player or whatever it is? The intelligent, the academia, those who are in the know, those who have spirituality, but keep it to themselves and never say anything offensive to others. This is a group of people that has been around forever. And right now it's especially praised. Oh, you're spiritual? That's good. That's nice. That's cute. That's cute. Just keep it to yourself. In fact, those who are spiritual and keep it to themselves are the best kind of spiritual people you can have. Not in God's eyes. Social justice warriors, climate warriors. I sat down with a Christian, a young man, not too long ago, and this is when I realized how bizarre school is these days. I asked this young Christian, teenager, if you could be anything when you grow up, what would it be? What's the most important thing you can think of? That was the question. And he said, if he could figure out how to stop climate change. That is not important in God's eyes. He's the one in charge of the climate. Right? This group of people are not the important ones. These groups, I should say. This group right here is the most important group of people. This is the elite, the number one. This is the group that every person in here wants to be a part of. And they have made it. So whatever they say, you listen. Who they are, and then it says, or I'm looking at where they are. Therefore, since we have so great a cloud of witnesses surrounding us. I am reminded of passages like Matthew that talk about Moses and Elijah and Jesus' transfiguration. What is impressive about this to me is that Moses and Elijah at Jesus' transfiguration, that means Moses had been dead for 1,500 years and Elijah for some 750 or 850 years. Now what impresses me is that though their bodies are dead, they're still alive. And I think about that, and I'll tell you, I get a little excited. I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Oh yeah, these three have been dead for 250 years or whatever the number is. And God says, oh no, they're not dead. They're still alive. In fact, Jesus will quote this another 1,000 years later, saying that they're still alive. And then he'll make the point. What he's saying in this passage is that Abraham and Isaac and Jacob are still alive implies that there is a resurrection of all of those who are still alive. Even though they're dead, they're not with us anymore. They're somewhere, still alive in a way. The saints who upon Jesus' resurrection were reunited with their bodies, raised and entered Jerusalem. That would have been weird. But at the same time, when you got over the weirdness, you'd say, that's pretty neat. In fact, the implications of that blow my mind. The innumerable number, I love that one. The uncountable counted number in Revelation 7:9 of all the spirits of the saints made righteous. Those who have fallen asleep in Jesus, but will meet in the sky upon Christ's return. Now, I ask up here, are they literally surrounding us or figuratively? Yeah, I don't think they're literally surrounding us. But some will. Some will say they're literally there. They're surrounding us. The grammar is there. So literally, all right. Some will say, no, it's figurative. I think it's figurative, that they're not like God is everywhere. Okay, I don't think it's the same thing, right? Remember, Abel, though he is dead, still speaks. Well, not literally. No, it's by his example. By their examples, they're all still speaking, right? They're all saying, hey, we're here. We made it. You can too. Okay, that's the message. But having said that, I don't know about you guys, but when I hear an airplane at my house, it doesn't really matter where I am, especially if I'm driving. Watch out. Because if I hear an airplane, I am out the door looking up in the sky. That happens. I love airplanes. I'm impressed with what man can do. I'm impressed that there's a man up there or woman flying at 30,000 feet. That impresses me. And I get a little excited. This group right here is the most impressive group. I imagine when Jesus returns, where is it? Yeah, those who have fallen asleep. You're going to be pretty excited when that happens. I can't think of anything more exciting. And this reminds me of what life is really about. Okay, because we're here, and on the way home, we got to go back. We got to talk to Walmart about returning some diapers for $12, and then we got to drive over, and we got to pack our things, and we get to have some good time with the stewards, and we had great time with you, and then we drive home, and all the while, I'm thinking about this weekend, we got to drive all the way down to Tennessee, and between now and then, I got to take care of the dog and the cow, and all these. We don't have a cow even, and then we do have a pig. And a goat. What am I going to do with the goat? Because we can't keep the goat. And what's in your life? I don't need to know. I don't want to know what's in your life. I got enough with my life. But these things are not what life is about. This is all clutter or fill that God allows to see what we love. And we need to remember this is really what life is about. So when you go out, you go to work, whatever you're doing this week, remember, look up. We have a friend in South Berlin, New York, who always writes, keep looking up. He's a Christian. Keep looking up, he's saying. Those are the things that matter. I'm not saying forget about life. I'm saying keep on looking up in life. Now, the witness, what they are saying. And I come up with two things, essentially. They are essentially saying two things. One of them is never give up. Don't ever give up. That is actually the context. Chapter 11, everybody knows what chapter 11 is about. It's about all those people who live faithfully. Yeah, but what is the author doing with all those people who live faithfully? Well, that starts actually way back in verse 26, which is continuation from verse 19 of chapter 10. Chapter 10, verse 26. If we go on sinning willfully, that is what he is talking about. All the way through this text, through chapter 10, through chapter 11, into chapter 12. If we go on sinning willfully, after receiving the knowledge of the truth, there no longer remains a sacrifice for sins. That's the threat. It's possible that you lose your salvation. Who in here wants to spend eternity in hell? No. And so, be careful. There no longer remains a sacrifice for sins, but a terrifying expectation of judgment and the fury of a fire which will consume the adversaries. Anyone who has set aside the law of Moses dies without mercy on the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. How much severer punishment do you think he will deserve who has trampled underfoot the Son of God? You see the argument from the lesser to the greater. If they died and are condemned to hell forever because of unfaithfulness to the law of Moses, how much more to the law of Christ? And has regarded as unclean the blood of the covenant by which he was sanctified, and has insulted the Spirit of grace. You see, all these things you can do. You, Christians, can do this. You don't want to. Verse 30, We know him who said, vengeance is mine, I will repay. Yeah, we know. You read the Old Testament and you see death after death. God is merciful. That he has allowed us to live these days shows his mercy. But he's also a God of wrath. We know this God. Verse 32, remember the former days when after being lightened, you endured great calamity. So he'll say, in general, you don't want to lose your salvation. And he'll say, because look back there at what God did. And now he'll turn to them and say, you were faithful. After being enlightened, you endured a great conflict of sufferings, partly by being made a public spectacle, partly through reproaches and tribulations, and partly by becoming sharers with those who were so treated. For you showed sympathy to the prisoners and accepted joyfully the seizure of your property, knowing that you have for yourselves a better possession and a lasting one. You were doing great. Therefore, do not throw away your confidence, which has great reward. For you have need of endurance. Don't throw it away. You need to endure. And this is where he's going to start talking about this faith. He'll come back to this and talk about faith. Verse 35, do not throw away your confidence. Verse 36, you have need of endurance, so that when you have done the will of God, you may receive what was promised. For, and now he'll say, look, I'm going to prove that you can lose your salvation or receive the reward from quoting the Old Testament. Yet in a very little while, he is coming who will come and will not delay. And there's a threat in there. He's coming. But my righteous one shall live by faith. And if he shrinks back, my soul has no pleasure in him. You see? You right now are living by faith. But if you stop, the Lord has no pleasure in it. We are not of those who shrink back to destruction. There is something to be said for optimism and tact when you are trying to encourage somebody who has, or is considering, or is acting such a way that says they're not serious anymore. You come up to them, and by the way, if somebody's not, if I stop being serious about my faith, do I want one of you to come and talk to me? If I stop being serious about my faith, do I want? My wife says no, because I don't like it when it happens. That's what she's answering. She's saying, you don't like it when it happens. You don't want it to happen. But if I'm thinking about the greater good, do I want one of you to come and talk to me? You bet I do, because my salvation is online. So when Jeremy comes and says, hey, Lee, can we talk? If my heart is in the right place, I will say, you're right, Jeremy. Thank you. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be fun. It's not fun for Jeremy to do it either. It's not fun for anybody. So just stay away from sin. But if I find myself in sin, and Jeremy comes and talks to me, in humility and honesty, I say, I'm sorry, and I'm thankful. We are not those who shrink back to destruction, but of those who have faith to the preserving of the soul. And then he'll say a whole bunch of people who had faith to the preserving of the soul. He'll name them. He said, they kept on going. They kept on going. They had endurance. They had perseverance. They kept on going on and on and on and on and on. And so, verse 1, therefore, since we have a cloud of witnesses who kept on going on and on and on and on and on when they could have lost their faith, but they did not, therefore, since we have such a great cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let us also, and then it says, lay aside every encumbrance and the sin which so easily entangles us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. Never give up. Imagine if Abraham, he's one of those names mentioned in chapter 11. You guys remember that there. By faith, Abraham, when he was called, he obeyed by going out. He didn't even know where he was going. I have not been called to literally go somewhere where I do not know where I'm going. Not by God. Some people have said, go over here. I don't know where I'm going. But I haven't been called. Now, one of the maps that I have says Abraham went this way. Whatever. He went some way. Let's pretend it was this way. because the point is valid, no matter if I got the city right or not. Abraham, go over here. But Abraham actually doesn't know he's supposed to go over here. No, I don't want to. That's not fair. Would we be reading his name here? He makes it to Babylon. Babylon's pretty nice. And Babylon and Abraham stopped. Actually, then it would have been Abram. And Abram stopped in Babylon. Would we read his name here? Shall we do this the whole way? You want to hit every city on the way there? Hit every city. Or if he's like me, I'm a country guy. He got right past Babylon. There's water there. We could go swimming. It's nice. It's next to Babylon, a day there and a day back. And you got all the modern conveniences. That's what my wife would like. Okay, so we decided, let's stop there. No. He kept going. That is the point. That's why he's there. What about when he got down in Egypt? Pretty nice place down there. Tropical, kind of, Mediterranean. Club Med down there in Egypt. Let's hang out. No. Imagine. And here's the point. Look, there is a promised land, and we can't stop. You don't get to stop. Because if you stop, you never make it there. Mountain climbers. Everest, you've heard of that place there, that mountain? Who are the famous ones besides the ones that die? The ones that made it to the top. What if they quit at the base camp? Or, they got up to I don't even know the names. They stopped at 7,000 feet. Probably the base camp is higher than 7,000 feet. You get the point. We are trying to make it to the third heaven. We cannot stop climbing. You don't get to quit climbing. You've got to keep on keeping on. That is his point. Therefore, let us run with endurance. You don't get to slack off. There's another point. Point 1 is give up or never give up. Point 2 is give up everything that gets in your way. Let us lay aside, and there will be 2 categories here. Every encumbrance, category 1, and the sin which so easily entangles us. There are 2 categories of things there. Even if I'm wrong about that so there's the sin. Now, we said the other day, Christians don't even we don't play around with sin. That is not an option. But there's a lot of stuff that is lawful but not profitable. So here's the whole pie of things that are lawful. This is sin. I'm not even talking about that. Who would talk about that? We're talking about the things that are lawful. And among that, great big pie of things that are lawful, but there are some that are not profitable, which means we only look at the things that are lawful and profitable. 1 John chapter 2 will say, do not love the things of the world. That's not talking about sin. It could be. Yes, do not love sin, right? But do you know my mom and dad are in the world? And the Bible says that I should not love my mom and dad at all. No, that's not what it says. It says love them, but not more than God. What about money? Money is the root of all evil. No, that's actually not what it says. It says, because money in and of itself, it's not inherently sinful or not. It doesn't say stay away from money. No, money is something that we actually need. The Bible says don't love money. There are a lot of things out there. In fact, you can trace this through the Bible. You can say, wait a minute. Here's something that's not inherently sinful. In fact, sometimes we have to use it. But there are going to be times when we will avoid it because it's taken over me. Let us lay aside every encumbrance and the sin. Get rid of the sin. That's a no-brainer. And then you're left with all things are profitable, but not all things are, all things are lawful, but not all things are profitable. And if it ain't profitable, I'm going to get rid of it. And I'm only sticking with things that are lawful and profitable. It says lay aside. It says running with endurance. And it says fixing our eyes. This is the putting off of encumbrances. So we have putting off, and then we have putting on more steam, I say, right? This is the marathon. Let us run with endurance. I'm tired. It's mile 23 on the marathon. I don't know what that is in kilometers. What is it? A marathon, 40? Whatever. Doesn't matter. You get the point. I'm almost there. So our sister-in-law used to run a couple marathons, I believe. This is what I asked her. I read this text. And I said, I can ask her what it's like to run a marathon. This is what she wrote. Full marathon training is a long and arduous process. I am feeling mentally drained, but I am so close, I will not quit. This week is the hardest of the training program, and I know I just need to suck it up and run. It's just really, really, really far. Yeah, life. How do you fight mental and physical fatigue? Which one of these do you think is worse? The physical or the mental? I don't know, because I ain't never tried to run a marathon. But I understand mental fatigue. I usually quit here. This is why I haven't run a marathon. Not because I've ran so far that I got physically tired. I don't even like to think about running a marathon. I asked her, when all this is going on, how do you fight mental and physical fatigue? I asked her, is there anything that you do during the marathon that you also do the rest of your life every day, but during the marathon really, really bothers you? Or another way to look at this is, you do it all the time and it's fine, but in the marathon, I don't do it. And she said, yes, I don't wear my, what do you think she said? I can't do it. I can't take it off. Her wedding ring. Because, it just weighs you down. I mean, every day I go around, I'm like this. Oh, I got to wear my wedding ring. No. But when you're running, do you know what can happen? You can fall off. And she doesn't want the mental bother of this. Lay aside every encumbrance. Get rid of it. You don't need it. It's slowing you down. You don't need to be mentally distracted by it. Pleasing the Lord takes all of your mental faculties. You don't need to be distracted, so don't allow it. There is the witness. Examples from chapter 11. We're not going to read chapter 11. I'll skim it in a minute. Abel did not allow his personal preference in ceremonial worship to cloud his vision. I know there's more to it than that. Cain did. I don't know what was up with Cain. I don't know exactly what it was. I know that Abel offered in faith. Faith comes by hearing. That means that Abel knew what to do, and unless God is unfair, is God unfair? The answer is no. Unless God is unfair, then Cain did also. Cain knew what to do. Abel didn't allow it to get something to get in his way. Cain did. That's the story of life. Some people do, some people don't. Now, who do you want to be? Enoch did not allow his parents or brothers or sister or wife or sons or daughters or acquaintances or life to obstruct his view. He walked with God. Job's wife tried. With Job, let's turn around. Or no, Job. I'm talking about Lot there. You remember when Job's cursed God and died, right? Lot's daughters succeeded with Lot. Lot's daughters got in Lot's way of pleasing God in that moment. Family, you got to be careful. Sarai didn't let Abraham's manly unreasonable. I love studying these two in the context of marriage because they're both quacks. They're both messed up. I've got an idea. Have my servant, and let's produce a child through there. That's her idea. His idea was, yeah, let's do it. Not saying no. His idea was also, hey, I've got an idea. When we go to Egypt, they're going to look at you. Just tell them you're my sister. Just lie. All the while understanding, wait, God shouldn't let me die. He shouldn't have told her that. They are a mess. So Sarah, oh, I just did something bad. Sarah didn't let Abraham's manly unreasonableness stop her. Yeah, she made mistakes. He made mistakes. They all made mistakes. But in the end, they're in the text. They're in Hebrews chapter 11. So in the end, they didn't let each other or anything else obstruct their view. Abraham didn't allow being kept in the dark by God. God, I don't know where I'm going. That's unreasonable, God. I stop now until you tell me where I'm going. No. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob didn't let the duration of the fulfillment. Abraham never saw the promise. He saw it. He didn't see the fulfillment. It took 25 years or whatever for him to, from you will have a son to you have a son. That's a long time, 25 years. Joseph didn't let family, persecution, women, or power. He didn't let any of that obstruct his view. He kept running with endurance. Did he ever make a mistake? You bet he did. He's human. But he didn't let those mistakes conquer him. No, he put them aside and he kept on keeping on. Moses didn't, the others didn't. We can go on and on and on and on and on. Here's something important to understand. If I were to have preached on Hebrews chapter 11, I would have expounded on this one point over and over. Hebrews 11, faith. Remember, Hebrews chapter 10, verse 26 through 39. You don't want to slow down. And then he says, we're not the kind that will slow down. We're like, and then he gives Hebrews chapter 11, all these people. But he starts Hebrews 11 with, faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Have you seen God? No. But you know he's there, and you live it. That is the key to life. That is it. You got that figured out. You just keep on going on. That's what he says here. It's a whole bunch of these people never actually saw what it is they were trying to get to. But they didn't let that they didn't see it stop them. They always acted as though they saw it. We say we see with our mind's eye. That's what they did. Verse 3. By faith we understand that the worlds were prepared by the word of God, so that what is seen was made out of things which are not visible. This is, right now I'm just reading that to emphasize, the whole play in Hebrews chapter 11 is with things that can be seen and things that are unseen. Verse 7, Noah, being warned by God about things not yet seen. The word seen only comes up a few times, but that is the point of the whole passage. These people knew there was something there. They couldn't actually see it, but they acted like they could. That's the key in Hebrews chapter 11. Verse 9, Abraham, by faith he lived as an alien in the land of promise, as in a foreign land, dwelling in tents with Isaac and Jacob, fellow heirs of the same promise. He was looking for, see, he's trying to see the city which has foundations. Verse 13, all these died in faith without receiving the promises, but having seen them, not literally, but with their faith and with their eyes of their mind. Verse 27 talks about Moses. He, by faith, left Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is unseen. That is the key statement in this entire passage. Yes, they had a promise. They didn't see it, but they kept on acting like they could see it. Why do you do that? Well, I'm looking for the city. Where is the city? It's right there. No, it's not. Oh, let me explain. God made a promise. I know God's there. I know he always keeps his promises. The city's right there, and I'm just walking toward it. No, I can't see it. What's the passage? Therefore, chapter 12, verse 1, since we have so great a cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let us also slay aside every encumbrance and sin which so easily entangles us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. Stop here. Where is Jesus right now? Have you seen him? Anybody seen Jesus right now? No, because he's in heaven. Fixing our eyes on Jesus. Well, how do we do that? Well, whole chapter 11 was You act as you live by faith. Faith says, I see him with my faith, with my mind's eye, even though I can't see him with my eyes. And I live that way. Fix your eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of faith. By the way, talking about laying aside every encumbrance, and that being just things that includes things that are lawful but are not profitable. I don't want to look at the things that are lawful but not profitable. I only want to look at the things that are lawful and profitable. I don't want to look at things that are unprofitable, even though they're lawful. I don't want to look at them. The word talking about fix your eyes on Jesus implies the concentration of the wandering gaze into a single direction. Yeah, we're bound to do this. You drive down the road, you're like, the road is there. You need to look at the road. The concentration of a wandering gaze in a single direction, a definite looking away from the others and directing one's gaze towards Jesus. Stop looking around at sin. Well, obviously it's sin. Don't look at sin. Stop looking around at things that are no longer profitable. Get rid of it. It's hanging you down. It's slowing you down. So, how can I, when I became a Christian some 21 years ago or whatever it was, I was scared. I was scared of this. I was scared that I would not maintain my faith. And I'm not here to say I've done it perfectly. That's not what I'm saying at all. I mean, I was scared that I would just run away from God. I've never heard anybody else express that until earlier this year. We were in Belize, and there was an older woman who's 75 or 70 years old or 65. She's my mom's age, so she's 70 years old. She's a day, doesn't matter. She's my mom's age. She said, when I became a Christian, I was scared I wouldn't stay one. It's the only other term I've actually heard. I'm sure a lot of people have thought. But recently before that, I had read Hebrews chapter 11. Verse 14 says, those who say such things, that is, that they're looking for the city. I'm looking for that city. I know there's a city there. I won't stop. I'm not going to stop until I get to the city. Those who say those kinds of things, make it clear they are seeking a country of their own. And now listen to verse 15. If indeed they had been thinking of that country from which they went out, they would have had opportunity to return. All right. There's a city there. There's a city back there too. It's called Babylon. I came from there, Abraham. But I'm going to that city. Why didn't you turn around and go to Babylon? And the short of it is this. In the grammar, I like the grammar, okay? I'm sorry, I like grammar. All right, in the grammar, the short of it is this. He wasn't thinking about that city. Do you remember Lot's wife? Lot's wife turned around and looked. Abraham never turned around. How do I know it? This is a conditional statement, okay? If they had been thinking about that country, they would have had an opportunity to turn around. But in the original language, there are multiple kinds of conditional statements. One of them is you can tell what the author, the writer of Hebrews, is thinking. If he was thinking about that city, and you can tell the author says, but he wasn't thinking about that city. And that's one of these statements right here. It's a class 2 conditional statement. The author says, look, if they had been thinking of the country from which they went out, they could have gone anytime they wanted to back there, just like Lot's wife. So, this woman, I myself, was worried. What if I give up on God? The woman says, I was worried that I'd stop being a Christian. Well, here's a key to avoiding that. Just don't think about what's back there. Don't be a Lot's wife. Be an Abraham. Be a Sarai, a Sarah. No, I'm looking for that city. What about the city you left? Oh, I forgot about it. I don't care about the city I left. I have no thoughts. The only thing I remember is I want to get out of there. I want that city. And if you focus on that city, if you focus on Jesus Christ, well, then you won't have these problems of, I might lose my... I'm not saying you can't, but I'm saying you keep on focusing on Jesus, and you will maintain your faith. Okay, some observations, and these will be quick and we'll be done. Read your Bibles. Why do I say that? Because in Hebrews chapter 11, which we didn't read, there's a bunch of names. And the author was relying on the recipients to know those names and the histories behind those names. The author wanted to make a point. We've had studies with unbelievers. And you say, yeah, you remember Lot. And then you realize, oh man, to make this point, I got to go all the way back there to Genesis chapter 13 through 19 and read the whole thing just to make this one little point. When it's really nice if the person already knows Lot. Right? That's all. But God understands that, so you got to go to Genesis 13. But right here, this author knew these people, the recipients of this letter, would know who that was without having to turn back there. Read. Difficulties are no excuse. In chapter 11, which we didn't read, but that is one of the witnesses that is referred to, there's a woman called Rahab. I don't know why the author included Rahab, because Rahab never had any problems. Her life was perfect. And Joseph's too. You know, Joseph's life was perfect. It was without problem. My point is, they all had problems in their lives. And we do too. We are without excuse. There are millions. In fact, there are more witnesses now than when this text was written. Think of that. Our failure is our fault. I can't blame somebody else. That's it. Every person. There is Abel and there's Cain. Those are your two options. Cain could not say, it's no fair, God, and neither can I. If I fail, it is only my fault. We are more accountable than they were. I find this interesting. There are more witnesses now than there were when this was written. That means we actually have a bonus, because we can think of the more faithful people that we know. But do you realize this? This is kind of difficult to swallow at first. But we don't actually need any of those witnesses. When God said to Adam, be faithful, how many witnesses did Adam have? Not one. When he said to Eve, be faithful, let's pretend Adam died first. I don't know if that's true. Finally, we have a witness. And ever since then, they've just been stockpiling. If we had no other witnesses before us, God could still say to us, be faithful. That we have these witnesses just makes us more privileged and therefore more accountable before God. Not only should you have been faithful on your own, but I also gave you millions of faithful witnesses beforehand, and you didn't take advantage of that. In fact, you blew it off because you knew better, Lee. On top of that, we have the greatest witness that they did not have. There's a word in verse 2. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 2. We are to fix our eyes on Jesus, and the New American Standard will say, the author and perfecter of our faith. That word right there, the author or the pioneer, whatever, it's that word. Fill it in. That word is a fantastic word. It's very few times in the New Testament. It's in Hebrews chapter 2. It also talks about him. Jesus, verse 10. It was fitting for him, that's the Father, for whom are all things, and through whom are all things, in bringing many sons to glory, to perfect and here's our word again, the author of their salvation. This word, referring to Jesus, only one time in the Bible does it not refer to Jesus, it's in the Old Testament. This word, somebody writes, a survey of the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Hebrew Scripture, and non-biblical usage. So you look at this Greek word and how it's used in the Greek language. suggests a threefold connotation. A path breaker, the first one, a pioneer. Yes, Jesus is the first one to live sinlessly and go into heaven. Hebrews chapter 9 and 10, right? He opens the way for others. I've been there, I've done that, here's how to go. The source and founder, hence the author. Yes, he's the one, he's the firstborn. He's the one that broke through the bounds of death. And he creates this city for us to go to. The leader, ruler, hence captain. Yeah, he's the first one. He knows how to do it. He's the one that protects us. Of course, he's going to be the ruler of the city, naturally. That's this word that's used about Jesus. In fact, they probably combine to speak of someone who explores new territory, opens a trail, leads others to it. There he builds a city or a fortress for those who follow, leads them in defense against the attackers. When the peace has been won, he remains as their ruler and the city or community that bears his name. He is thereafter honored as the founding hero. Now, we have somebody now, ever since the day of Pentecost, or a little earlier, or however you want to look at it, we have somebody we can look to that everybody in Hebrews chapter 11 didn't. We are more privileged than they were. We can look at Jesus and say, that's how to do it. Now, beforehand, they had an academic knowledge. Yes, I need to live sinlessly. But afterward, that's how to do it right there. Here's the final thought. Thank God for this congregation. What do I mean by that? Therefore, since we have so great a cloud of witnesses surrounding us, the witnesses surround us. That word is used 5 times in the New Testament. I'll read them all right now. Whoever causes one of these little ones who believes to stumble, it would be better for him if, with a heavy millstone hung around his neck, he had been cast into the sea. That expression is captured twice in the Gospel, so I've just read 2 of them right there. By the way, is that kind of a good thing to have a millstone hung around your neck? Not really, I wouldn't say that. That slows you down. That's its point. For this reason, therefore, I requested to see you and to speak with you, for I am wearing this chain for the sake of the hope of the gospel. Here's number 3. By the way, does this speed you up or slow you down? Again, this is meant to anchor you so you don't move. And then every high priest is taken from among men, is appointed on behalf of men and things pertaining to God, in order to offer both gifts and sacrifices for sins. He can deal gently with the ignorant and misguided, since he himself is also beset with weakness. There's number 4. The only other time it's used in the New Testament is right here. A cloud of witnesses surrounding us. You can think of it as this way. All these texts are, this thing slows you down. It's a hindrance. Well, how in the world can a cloud of witnesses that are faithful be an hindrance? Well, one way is, if you're trying to get away from God, they will help keep you from going away from God. You don't want to lose your salvation. Look at these witnesses. The context is you're trying to walk away from God, or you're thinking about walking away from God, or you need to know that it's possible to walk away from God. These witnesses, they will keep you with God. Now, I'm talking about a congregation here. My point is this. It's an argument from the lesser to the greater. If the dead can help you stay with God, how much more can living, faithful Christians help you stay with God? And God knows this. I'll read one text. Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 19. Hebrews 11 and verse 19. Therefore, brethren, since we have confidence to enter the holy place by the blood of Jesus, and we're thankful for the work of Jesus, we just gave honor and tribute to him just now, by a new and living way which he inaugurated for us. Remember, he's the author of our salvation. Verse 21, since we have a great high priest over the house of God, there will be 3 let us passages. Let us draw near with a sincere heart and full assurance of faith, having our hearts sprinkled clean from an evil conscience and our bodies washed with pure water. And let us hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering. Don't give up. Let us hold fast. And verse 24, let us consider how to stimulate one another to love and good deeds. Who wants to be more adept at love and good deeds? Who wants to be more loving? Who wants to do more righteous deeds? Everybody in here says, yep, I do. Well, we need to read the text. We need to pray. We need to meditate. We need to obey. And this says, let us consider how to stimulate one another to love and good deeds. We need each other. This congregation, throughout the week, Brian is thinking of William. William is thinking of Jeremy. We're all thinking of Shelley. Shelley's thinking of Lee. Next time he comes up here, I'm going to have this encouraging word for him. That's what we do. I wonder if he gives us a time in order to share these encouraging words that we've been thinking about all week. Not forsaking our own assembling together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, all the more as you see the day drawing near. This little band of brethren that I've witnessed this weekend, it's been exciting for me to be a part of it. Let me leave you with these 3 thoughts. Never let go of God. Never let go of each other. And as long as you are here in this community, I suggest you never let go of this local congregation. Thank you for inviting us. I hope that this has been profitable for each of us. We know that we have been blessed because of it.